I'm Regina C. Minier. I am founder of O Universe, which is all about empowering women to find their true north through the power of their own inner authentic voice. And today I have a guest speaker, Nancy Nazari, which just really quickly, we met, gosh, I think it was in 2011, back when we were in corporate pharma together, big pharma. And we've known each other all this time and have kind of witnessed each other's journey to finding our true north. And I don't want to give too much away, but we recently had a conversation that really sparked my interest about acting and tapping into your emotions to become the character that you are in when you are going into a new role, for example, and how that intersects with tapping into the inner authentic voice, the gut feelings or the intuition. And that's why I really wanted to bring you on to my Facebook Live, because I really wanted to pick your brain about that and really have viewers hear about your journey. So I'm going to stop talking. And Nancy, if you could please just give a brief bio about yourself, and then I would love to hear about your journey from the corporate world that you were in, and now you're an actor in Hollywood. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for having me, Regina. I am honored to be here and excited to talk with you, not just about my journey, but exactly what you just said, tapping to into your intuition and how impactful it is on your life and for your own true happiness.
Yeah.
So my journey, just really briefly, I worked in the corporate industry for over 15 years, specifically the pharmaceutical industry for over 12. Before I realized that I wanted to pursue my acting career, my dream, essentially. So now I've been a full-time actor. It'll be 6 years, April 1st.
Wow.
I can't even believe doing it that long. And I've grown so much, and it's been a whirlwind of growth and excitement and goals met and continuing to grow. So that's been really exciting. My journey, if I step back a little bit, so as many kids experience, I started acting when I was in elementary school. You know, in plays and skits and choir and band, and I really enjoyed it. And then as an adult, I really kind of kept one foot in. I took acting classes here and there. I took voiceover classes. Every now and then I would book a job, but I never put it first. It was always just a fun side part of my life that I never really shared with anyone. A lot of that had to do with I didn't feel like it was worth it, and I wasn't really courageous enough at the time to look at it as a real career. And honestly, I wasn't listening to my gut. At that time in my 20s and on, I didn't even think to tap into my gut. So then it kind of brought me to a place in my early 40s. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my office, and I had just met, I'm a big goal planner, so I had just met a career goal of mine, a milestone, and I was looking to set my next goal for my next 10 years. And I started having a panic attack, and I started getting really emotional, and because I couldn't see myself sitting there in front of a computer doing what I was doing in 10 years. But even more so, Regina, I didn't know what to do. It wasn't like, oh, I have to move on from this and pursue this. I didn't know what to do. And I think that was half of my attack, half of my anxiety. So I reached out to a really good friend of mine Audrey, who is a close friend, but also a therapist. And I talked to her a little bit about it, and we mulled some things over, and, the aspect of a life coach came up. And oddly, shortly thereafter, around that time, I had a conversation with Audrey. A friend of mine who is a voiceover actor was telling a group of us that he was meeting with this life coach, and this life coach helped him make this major decision in his life, and how it impacted his life so positively. And I thought, whoa, universe, timing, right?
Synchronicity.
And I thought, exactly, yeah. So I thought, okay, this must be a sign, or the right time for me to really look into a life coach. And so I actually reached out to the same life coach and booked a few sessions. And after a series of sessions, I too realized that I wanted to pursue my own dream, which was acting. And as exciting as that was, I was so excited. I remember getting into my car and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm really admitting to myself that this is what I want to do. And then I was emotional all over again, because what did that mean? It meant leaving a job that I had worked so hard to be good at, leaving people that I loved working with that weren't just coworkers, but were also friends, and leaving a job security, financial stability, benefits, because as an actor, there's a lot of financial instability. There's so much hard work involved. And would I reap the benefits of that financially, right? And but I worked through all of that, and because I knew I finally accepted what my gut has been always kind of urging me to do, right? There's something more. You're not really doing what you love. And I worked it out. I worked out all my goals, my finances, everything. And 6 weeks later, there I was, April 1st, 6 years ago, leaving my corporate job and doing acting full time.
Oh my gosh.
So that was the emotional journey with that. So that was the career and emotional journey.
Okay. So I have a couple thoughts, comments, and questions. Okay. So first of all, I remember seeing you when this was happening, and we were scheduled for a dog walk. You had Max, I have Fredo, and we were meeting down at the Embarcadero in San Francisco, and by the Heart, I think it was. And I saw you coming towards me with Max. And I was like, what is going on? Because you had like this glow around you. Like you lit up and you looked different. And I remember approaching you and I was like, Nancy, what's going on? Like you were grinning ear to ear. You were lit up. You had this glow about you. And I remember you said, I figured out which way I want to go. And like you made the decision and what you just described. So I got to bear witness to that. And it was the most amazing thing to see, like physically on your body. It was just really amazing when you get that aha moment and you tap into that intuitive voice and you honor it, you acknowledge it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this is what's been kind of talking to me. But life shows up and responsibilities and the practicality of what we thought, we're supposed to be doing with our careers and our, having job security and all the things you talked about. I want to go back a little bit to what you mentioned about all your life. You've always had like one foot in kind of the acting and the arts, I would say, you said. But you treated it, I think, was it more like a hobby?
Yes.
Okay. But you found a lot of joy. You didn't really share it with a lot of people, but it was something that was for yourself, right?
Right.
Okay. And it's so interesting that you mentioned that because I just did a vlog that's actually, I think is dropping tomorrow. And it's about what's the difference between a career, a job, um, a vocation, and a hobby. And so
Yeah.
it sounds to me that you were in a career that you had built up and
Mhm.
has produced so much security for you. And it was kind of like the thing you thought you were supposed to be doing, but then you had this hobby on the side and something
Right.
you enjoyed. You didn't make money from it. Nobody really knew about it. And that's a definition of a hobby, right? It's something for yourself, purely for joy, not to make money, not to be
Right.
famous from it. It doesn't serve any other purpose except just for pure joy. So it sounds like that's what acting and the things you were doing in the arts was for you. And then the career, oftentimes we talk about career as, it's the thing that you love and you go above and beyond. It's beyond 9 to 5 because a job is 9 to 5, right? It's like you clock in and clock out, you provide a service and then you're done. A career
Mhm.
is you're all in and you're just like providing your blood, sweat, and tears and everything for your career, right? And I'm
Right.
hearing from women that they do this, but then they're discovering they're not enjoying it and they're killing themselves for it. And so tomorrow's vlog talks about this, that if you're not happy in your career, then just get a job and figure out what makes you really happy. So I just wanted to point that out because of your transition to going from your hobby that's it's become your calling and now it's like becoming more your career, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to also ask you about, I mean, the whole reason we were talking about this was tapping into emotions, because emotions is what our feelings is what really is the currency towards our inner authentic voice, right? When we feel really good, when we feel joy, happiness, excitement, we can tap into our inner authentic voice, or what you call intuition or your gut feeling. You could tap into it more regularly. So
Yes.
if you are feeling angry, resentment, fear, um, despair, then it's very difficult to tap into and hear your inner authentic voice, which connects you to your true inner authentic self. So it sounds like you had kind of this gut feeling, but maybe you
Mhm.
didn't hear it in your 20s, which is common actually.
Yeah.
And usually we tend to hear it more when we get into our 40s and connect with it more actually. Um, but I wanted to hear more about your gut feeling that kind of got you to be like, this is what I really want to do, and how you
Yeah.
transitioned or trusted the voice, and what did it sound like to you to be able to make such a leap? Because that's a big decision. A lot of people are too scared to do it.
Yeah, it was a huge leap and an emotional journey. And so there's if I step back a little bit farther, Regina, it was in my late 30s before I had this kind of panic attack in my office. In my late 30s, I decided to go to a therapist because I wanted to work through and let go of some childhood traumas.
Mhm.
And again, my friend Audrey, she referred someone in San Francisco because I was in San Francisco at the time. And this therapist was amazing. And I worked really hard.
Yeah.
And after a period of time, I walked out of therapy feeling so much lighter, so much freer, and with just a lot of weight removed. And I think going back to what I said, but also what you just said, when you are overwhelmed or stressed or anxious,
Mhm.
it is really hard sometimes to figure out what you want
Mhm.
and what path you want to go down,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons that a life coach helped me so much, because I was in that state. I was overwhelmed. I was anxious. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to make any rash decisions, etc. So it was really when I was done with therapy that I that I looked at my 10-year goals and then followed up with a life coach. But also it worked really well with acting, because oftentimes in corporate or many other jobs, unlike the entertainment industry, you can put on a face. You can be fake.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You can put a smile on your face and your brain can tell you this is good.
Yeah.
You could be having a bad day, a bad week, a bad life, and you can put a smile on your face and fake it.
Yes.
But you do this in acting. To be a really good actor, you have to be vulnerable. You have to let go of your ego. You have to really fully take on a character. You have to be vulnerable, and that's really hard to do when you're faking it.
Yeah. Yes.
So many teachers, many acting teachers have told me, or told the class really, that if you're having confidence issues or you're working through something personal, I encourage you to see a therapist. I have heard so many teachers say that, and I think it's really true. And then to kind of go further and to answer that question is, when I'm faced with a decision, and it could be as silly as, where do I want to go for vacation?
Yeah.
Or it could be as serious as marriage, or someone that you're dating, or divorce, or career change, or deciding to have kids, deciding not to have kids. These major decisions in your life, I always tap into my gut.
Yeah.
And I wish I could explain. It's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
So when I thoughtfully tap into my gut and I really listen to what it's telling me, it is always honest with me. It will always give me an honest answer, whereas my brain won't. My brain never, because it's battling traumas. It keeps you safe. Yeah. Right? Based on past experiences, positive or negative, and judgments, my own, and maybe judgments I've experienced from other people and I don't want to again, or what parents think you should be doing. Like, these are the things that your brain summarizes. Yeah. And protects you from making courageous decisions in your life. And so that's what I do. I really tap in to my gut. I thoughtfully ask my gut. Sometimes I need to sit with it a little bit longer, and sometimes I'll listen and my gut will be obvious, and I'll make the decision then and there, and I trust it. I think that the fear is not just hearing your gut, but trusting it. Yeah. and making your brain align with your gut.
Yeah. For sure. Like, you almost have to convince it.
Yeah, exactly. Because your gut, again, will give you the truest, the most honest answer that will lead to happiness.
Yes.
If you just trust it. And for me, acting, my gut always told me there's something more for you. Mm-hmm. It was that tug.
Yes, tug. Exactly. Yep.
That I never allowed myself to tap into or to listen to. I just pushed it aside and thought, well, I want this financial goal, so I'm going to stay where I'm at because this job will help me meet that financial goal. Yeah. And so I talked myself out of listening to my gut. Mm-hmm. But that gut is persistent.
Yes, it is.
Thank God, right?
It is persistent. Okay, I love how you've described it as a tug, because for me, it was a nagging feeling that persisted, that wouldn't go away, and it got stronger in 2013 for me. And it just kept saying, not this, and you're meant for something else bigger. And I didn't know what it was. It just kept saying, not this, not this. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me, then what, then what? And I had to sit and wait and listen. And I kept doing my corporate career. And then finally in 2017, it was like, I think it's time to leave corporate, but I didn't know where to head. And so it was external narratives that kept me in the role for the very same reasons that you described: financial security, financial goals, living a certain lifestyle. and I didn't know where to head, so I just stayed there. And so you bring up a really good point about it's persistent. It will keep tugging at you. It was the same thing with my first marriage. It kept saying not this, and I stayed an extra 4 years because I ignored it. The
Right.
gut, the inner authentic voice that kept saying not this. But then finally, it just gets so uncomfortable that you realize, okay, I need to head into a different direction. And for me, it was get the divorce back in 2009. And then
Yeah.
for my career in 2020, finally stepped away from corporate. So I love how you describe that it's that kind of nagging, tugging feeling. Is it something that does it ask you a question, or do you ask a question and then it comes back and tells you an answer that feels good so you know to go that way? Or do you act like how does it what's the narrative sound like? Because I have viewers in my community asking me like, well, what does it sound like, and how do you like tap into it?
So I think the first time that I really understood tapping into my gut was during one of my sessions with the life
Yes.
coach. Oftentimes we don't really, when we're not observing our own body language,
Mm,
if someone else
yeah.
can. I think that's positives about a life coach. And he told me, did you know that whenever you talk about your corporate job or this company, right, you slump your shoulders. And every single time you talk about acting, your whole being lights up. You get excited, your legs start doing this.
Yeah.
And I never even realized that. And so after that session, I really started tapping into how do I feel? What is my body going through when I ask it a question? And I get sometimes I think, well, for vacation, do you want to go here? And I'll get a reaction. Do you want to go here? And I'll immediately go, oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's sometimes it's just a verbal question
Yeah.
that I raise out loud to myself.
Yeah.
Um, Other times it's like I'll talk with someone like you and I'll have an aha moment because my gut opens up and goes, oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you're excited.
Yeah.
And then okay, now I know what I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, now I know what path I have to go down. So sometimes it's just a one-on-one thoughtful question, or I sit with myself and think about something,
Yeah.
or it's an aha moment with somebody that I know my gut is feeling a positive reaction to
Hmm.
or a negative reaction to.
Yeah.
And I'll the person that I was talking with, and I'll say, you know what, I just needed to talk with someone about it.
Yeah.
And now I know what I want to do.
So it sounds like having somebody reflect a mirror almost like, hey, Nancy, this is what I'm seeing in your body language, was the kind of way, the language for you to then begin to understand, oh, I need to go in and tap into my inner dialogue and see how it makes me feel. And if I'm like kind of dancing and excited, I know that's like aligning to my inner authentic self and my gut, and really tapping more into that, or having dialogues that help you then be like, aha. So that those are great tips, I think, for our viewers to understand how to navigate when they're first starting out, how to figure out which way to go. Now, you did mention about kind of your mind, how it like comes up and tells you the safest thing is to stay in the career because of the financial goals, or let's not do that because that's scary. I just want to call that out, that I've been referring to that as our ego narrative. And you mentioned ego earlier. I've lovingly called it egon. A great way to manage that is to acknowledge the thought, recognize it, and go, aha, that's egon speaking to me. And it's having a loving conversation and say, thank you so much for protecting us all these years. But now we choose in a desire to align with our inner authentic voice. So thank you, but no thank you. I say this out loud, I journal it, and I say it in my head when that the mind and the logical thinking and the fear-based thoughts start creeping in. I say that to myself. It sounds like you just recognize it and then you just know to trust that your gut intuition, inner authentic voice will never lead you astray or in the wrong way. It always will produce the best outcome. It sounds like you've trusted it, you've experienced it, so now you trust it and you just go to that feeling or to that voice.
Right. And you know, what you just mentioned, Regina, is such a great way of acknowledging the brain from it trying to protect you from a memory of past events or potential judgment that we put on ourselves that isn't real. You know, our own judgment. That is, I think that's a great tip. And one that I've actually briefly used until I started trusting my gut. And now I wholeheartedly trust my gut because I've experienced that it's never led me astray. That even though it was scary, it was the best path for me.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we should acknowledge that it is scary sometimes, maybe oftentimes, what it tells you to do. Because my inauthentic voice was like, you need to leave the marriage. I mean, I was so scared to get a divorce and go and be on my own. And then to leave corporate, I was really scared to leave the golden handcuffs. But what kept me going, when I say golden handcuffs, for folks that don't know, it's like the salary, the bonuses, the 401k, the stocks, the amazing benefits coming from the being employed in the corporate world. I was afraid to leave that, right? And so, but when you trust the inner authentic voice and you know it won't lead you astray, you'll figure it out, and you trust that you'll figure it out. You just need to keep going forward to trust it, right? The other thing I wanted to call out is that our lives seem to be parallel in that we left corporate to go. For me, I went to my my vocation. This is creating a universe and empowering women to find their true north is my vocation. So I left my career to answer my calling and to pick up another job. So I consult back into the pharma world as my job, as like the day job. But my passion, my vocation is creating a universe and empowering women, tapping into their inner authentic voice and trusting it to find their true north. I just want to call out to people because they could see that in your life, you were in the corporate world and you tapped into your intuition and created your hobby, turned your hobby into your career, right? And so I just want to point out to folks that everyone's journey and path is unique to them. And that it doesn't mean that what you and I are talking about is what's going to happen for our viewers, right? The point is that everyone has their own unique journey, and that when they tap into their own inner authentic voice, their gut, their sixth sense, whatever you want to call it, the inner knowing, that it will guide you to the best possible path with the most joy for yourself. And whether that is get a day job to spend more time doing your hobby and leaving your career, or figuring out what the next career is, or a combination of a career, vocation, job, hobby, whatever that combination looks like, it's going to be different for each person. The point I think that I want to convey in what we're sharing in our journey is that the point is to quiet the external narratives, address them, address egon, but then really trust and go internal.
Right. That is such a good point. And I also want to make it clear, just like you did, Regina, I left corporate for over 3 years and fully focused on acting. My path brought me back to corporate as a job, but my scenario was very different. Now I consult part-time, with acting being my full focus, my career, my passion, and my job in the corporate is just that. It's a job that allows me to continue to work on my passion, versus before, you know, corporate ruled my life, if you will. Acting was an embarrassing hobby that I didn't want anyone to know for fear of judgment.
Oh my gosh, I'm right there with you. I have
Yeah.
fear. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are gonna think I'm crazy. People are gonna think I'm woo woo. She's got off the
Yeah.
cliff. She's in crazy town, doing this O Universe thing, and she's left the scientific, PharmD corporate professional world. And so yeah, it took me time to be to manage that fear and find the courage to say, this is who I am. And if it makes sense to you and it aligns to you, join me on my journey, kind of thing. But yeah, there's a sense of judgment, like fear of judgment from others. And it's really judgment of myself. So I can
Right.
completely relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Really quickly, can you talk to us about, as an actor, you really have to tap into your emotions and
Mhm.
to play a role, right? Because whatever the character or the movie or the commercial, the scene that you're playing, you have to really tap into your feelings to play that role and convey what's happening in that character. And I want to bring this up because tapping into your inner authentic voice is about feelings and emotions. I know a lot of people probably like, oh, I don't like talking about my feelings and I don't even know how to tap into my feelings. So can you talk to us about, as an actor, how that connects? Like how do you work your way? For example, if somebody's feeling really down and maybe in despair or feeling fearful, and need to climb their way up into a more happy, joyful, positive state so they can tap into their inner authentic voice. Do you have any thoughts that you can share about how you just kind of turn on your feelings and emotions?
I mean, I hate to say that for me, it's so simple
Yeah.
now. Um, I'm only here because it was such a journey for me.
Hmm.
It was just relying, it sounds dumb to say, what does your gut say?
Yeah.
I, I know that sounds silly, but it truly, truly is that when I want to make a major decision, kind of similar to what I said previously, I really just ask my gut.
Yeah.
Like I want this. And sometimes my brain will freeze up,
Uh-huh.
but my will be excited.
Okay. Okay.
And there's the fear of trying something new.
Yeah.
There's the fear of being embarrassed. I mean, that happens all the time
Yeah.
as an actor
Yes.
when you go into audition, and you're in front of, commercial auditions. When you're going in for a callback, what they call a callback, you're oftentimes in front of 5, 8, 10 people.
Yeah.
You doing these auditions and oftentimes not even knowing what you're going to do. They just switch it up on you and say, oh, we've changed the line,
Oh gosh.
that you've so hard to memorize or line page or whatever. And it's being able to just say, you know what, they're gonna like me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be
Yeah.
here. Believe I'm doing this still.
Yeah.
And just fear and the judgment and the ego, or egon, what you called it, go.
Yeah.
And just calm me down in the process, and not getting caught up in the fear from the brain,
Yeah.
but tap into the excitement from your gut.
So do you, when you're in that role or in that part and they're like, I need you to, someone just died and I need you to be
Yeah.
sad. So where do you go? It's the thought precedes the emotion, right? So
Mm-hmm.
do you think about a memory? Do you think about something that makes you sad to then bring the sadness? Or maybe the flip of that, where they're like, you're supposed to be super excited about this scene because the character just learned that I don't know, they won the lotto or something, and you're supposed to be super excited. So
Yeah.
do you go to your thought that then brings the emotion? Because it's how do you kind of work through emotions and get yourself from point A to point B is, I think, what folks kind of have challenges with.
Sure. Yeah. In the acting community, there are many different lifestyles. There are many different types of learnings.
Yeah.
There, and many kids,
Yeah.
right? what I've experienced, having taken a lot of classes and learned a lot of different methods, I don't really feel like there's one method for every single actor.
Okay.
I feel whatever works for you to be authentic in the character and the role, to take on the character yourself. So for me, what works is when I know that I'm going to be playing someone who is traumatized by an event, and say her daughter has passed away,
Yeah.
then for me, I would either think of someone that I cared about who had passed away,
Yeah.
or I think to get me into that space, that mental space and that emotion, or I would think about something like, well, how would I feel if my mother was in the hospital passing away? And clearly as an actor, you can think of this off the cuff, right?
Yeah.
To get a few seconds to get in that space.
Yeah.
But that's what I do to get into the role of a character when I'm supposed to feel happy, or, and you're absolutely right. The thought precedes the action, the emotion, the body language.
Yeah.
So I think it, and oftentimes they'll say, think the thought,
Okay.
and it will come out physically.
Yeah.
Even
Yep.
your thoughts taken. If you think the thought, if you're a mom and you're, wanting to put on kind of a mom face, like, I told you not to do that, think that thought and it will come through in the picture. It's very true. The thought precedes, as you said, the emotion, the expression, the body language.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just a great tip for folks who are just maybe not feeling so great, or anxious, or worried about their job. People are calling me, they're like, I got laid off. I don't know which way to head. Or I'm in a job, in a career, and they changed the role on me, and it's not the career that I wanted for myself. It's becoming like a job, and I'm really unhappy. And so to be able to think about something that they're excited about, to bring them into a different place that then they can begin to feel a little bit better, that will help them connect with their gut, that then can help them find which way to go. So I think that's so key, is the ladder of emotions. Abraham Hicks talks about this, and there's actually a ladder where there's the bottom part where you're feeling despair, fear, and then it goes up to anger, and then there's even like jealousy, and then it moves up the ladder, and eventually you get to joy and happiness. And the higher you go up in the emotion of positive energy, that's where you can really hone in and tap into your inner authentic voice. So thank you for sharing that tip about just being able to take your mind and think of a memory or think of a thought that then helps you to translate that through emotion. Super helpful. So
one other thing to add is, oftentimes if I'm feeling down, just what Regina is, I will think of the future goal and the end, and think that I know I'm feeling this right now, but in the end, this is what is going to be the result, and it'll be worth it, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's super helpful, because you're thinking about yourself in the future state of what it would be like, and you're imagining it. And so then actually that supports manifesting. So you've completely, totally hit it on the nail. Just perfect. Yeah. Okay, Nancy, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So I heard it several years ago. And it just hit me so hard.
Okay.
Before I went to therapy, before anything else, someone said, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're pursuing your dream.
Okay.
And it's so true, because we all work so hard at something and be really good at it, but still incredibly unhappy.
Oh, for sure. That is such wisdom, right? To really understand that, because I think that's overlooked quite a bit.
Oh, so much. And even I would tell myself, the brain helped me lie to stay in the space, right?
Yeah.
Why something I worked so hard at?
For sure.
and was good at it.
Yeah.
Why would I leave that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's so, and other quotes. One that I always held on to, especially being a woman and in the corporate industry more than the entertainment industry. It's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay.
That no one can make you feel inferior without your permission.
Oh,
And
sure.
and that rang so true to me in the corporate industry as I was growing as a person and in my career.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I think women feel like you have to apologize or
Yeah.
We don't ask for what we deserve.
Yeah.
And we settle.
Yeah.
We don't know how to negotiate or that kind of thing. And so I always took that every time I moved to a different job. I would always take that and tack it in my cube or my office.
Yeah.
It was powerful. Lastly, the quote that I have is from my really good friend's mother.
Yeah.
He said, "You cannot walk on water without first getting out of the boat."
Oh my
That
God.
is so.
I love that.
We can't create our own happiness without first, and even our happiness, which affects other people, without first being courageous enough to take that first step.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does feel like walking on water, right?
Yeah.
When we make these life decisions, they're so scary. It gives me the chills right now.
Yeah.
And it's just, I wrote that down when she said that, and I just carry it with me because I think I have to be ready to walk on water before, I have to be ready to get out of the boat.
Yeah.
First, before I can walk on water.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And just,
it's so true. It's my life coach was always telling me, Regina, you got to be ready to be ready. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She's like, you got to be ready to be ready. It doesn't happen overnight, but you got to get out of the boat first before you can do the rest of it. And it takes courage, yes. But it takes that first step and tapping into your gut and trusting it. I have one last question for you, but we have a few folks on the line, Alex, Lisa, I can't see I think, and Inga. If you guys have questions for Nancy, please, we're gonna try this. Again, we're learning on the fly. So if you text us a question or if you wanna just text a comment as we're trying to wrap up here. And Nancy, can you see on your side if people are typing in a question or anything? I'm not sure if I can. I see that they're watching in, but I don't see their comments. So if I can't see their questions or comments, we can answer them afterwards in the Facebook community. But we have Inga, Lisa, and Alex tuning in. The last question I wanted to ask you, but before I ask the question, I just want to recognize one thing that you talked about previously was that you went and got a coach and you actually talked to a therapist before you got into this journey. And I think this is about being ready to be ready to kind of dive into what's waiting for you, the amazing things that are waiting for you, the walking on water piece. I think the key thing you called out was that you had to address childhood traumas, and you did that with a coach. And I want to say that I'm right there with you, and I had to do the same thing. So I worked with a life coach, a life/spiritual coach as well. And I had a lot of things that I had to address from my childhood of feeling, I was a latchkey kid and I didn't have a lot of babysitters or things like that. Was home alone a lot and was scared a lot. And I still remember myself walking the streets in 4th grade because the person that I was supposed to stay at their house, their older sister was like, you can't stay, you need to leave. And I had nowhere to go. And I was walking the streets in Peace Place, in Costa Mesa, Peace Place Street, wandering the neighborhood because I didn't know where to go and I didn't have a babysitter and I had to wait a couple hours till my sister got out of school. to come find me. And I will never forget it. So, I mean, I just share that piece of fear and abandonment that I personally had carried with me for many, many years until I addressed it. And it's so important that we address those things because it's always in the back of our mind, and it becomes a barrier to tapping into our inner authentic voice, our intuition. So I just wanted to call out that I'm right there with you, that I too had to get some help to walk through that and address it. So thank you for sharing that personal piece of information. It's what I wanted to get at.
Yeah, so life coaches are great. I went to a therapist, but agree with you. The weight from all can restrict us from moving forward.
Yes. And so it's important to just identify, as you called out, there are differences between life coaches and therapists. So each person has to find out what they would need for their situation. So my last question is, what is the best piece of advice that you could give viewers who are trying to find their true north? And whatever wisdom from your experience, what can you share with our viewers?
So my first question would be, are you happy?
Okay.
Are you happy in life? Are you happy in your career? And an honest answer, like, are you truly happy? Everybody knows the answer, whether they want to say it or not.
Yeah.
But I would ask someone to ask themselves, am I truly happy in my career? Am I truly happy in my life?
Yeah.
That answer is no to one or both. Then I would say, what does your gut say?
Yeah.
And I would, and again, it seems so silly.
Yeah.
Your gut will tell you your honest opinion. Your gut will tell you whether to stay in a relationship or not stay, whether to stay in a job or not stay, whether to move or not move.
Yeah.
You know, these major things will tell us what we really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what our body, our soul, and our hearts want to do. And then the brain will keep you in kind of a stagnant place.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and so anyway, that's what I would do. And then, based on our discussion, Regina, it's then, if for those that don't know how to say, what does my gut say?
Yeah.
And how to tap into that, then reaching out to people who can help them tap into that.
Yeah.
Life coach, a conversation with someone who's knowledgeable and experienced and can help them through that, etc. You know, oftentimes it's just about talking. You know, some people might think, I don't have the money for a life coach, or I don't have benefits to go to a therapist, or something like that. But even if you just take some time out for yourself, and to thoughtfully ask, or to talk to someone who might be knowledgeable that area, who could really help you.
For sure. Yeah. That's such great piece of advice. I completely agree with you. I've talked to so many women, and you can just see the underlying, read between the lines that they're not happy, but it takes courage to say, I'm not happy with this, because if you admit it, then what are you supposed to do next? That's all where all the hard work comes in, where you have to be still and you have to kind of quiet the noise and then tap into what it says to you. And I think oftentimes it's scary going internal. It's easier to just listen to the external noise, the external narratives.
Right. Yeah. Because it keeps you safe.
It keeps you safe.
In a pod.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, Nancy, thank you. What's that?
We broke the pod.
Yes, we broke out of our cocoon and really just ventured out. And I'm so happy for you. And thank you so much for being on this Facebook Live with me. I look forward to hearing from other folks who chime into it later and hearing their thoughts about it. But it's been such a pleasure just connecting with you and hearing about your journey and your experiences and just sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much. I don't see the questions or comments coming through, but we'll just go scroll through the community comments in the Facebook group and see if there are any questions there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if anyone has any questions for me, anything that I said about acting, about my own personal journey, I'm happy to answer. And Regina, thank you so much. I always love talking with you. I mean, we get on the phone and we talk for hours.
We do.
Literally. I mean, and it's just, I love it. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Oh,
Yeah, to be.
it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Nancy. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone.